All right, we are getting ready for our next panel. This is our people discovery panel. How do you vanquish the loneliness that is central to the human condition? These people are working on it. Alan Blue from LinkedIn is on his way, so we're hoping that he's going to join us in a bit, but in the interest of staying on schedule, we're going to move right along. So we're going to bring up onto stage now Jon Swartz, a technology reporter from USA Today. He'll be moderating for us. And on his panel, he has Rick Marini, founder and CEO of BranchOut, Geoff Cook, co-founder of MeetMe, and Greg Tseng, co-founder and CEO of Tag. And hopefully Alan will be joining us momentarily. Take it away, guys.
Hey, guys. How are you? I recognize a bunch of you. This is crazy. This is going to be like a big group discussion, I hope. Hi, Owen. And we're not taking questions from you, by the way. So, so anyway, Al, we're waiting for Alan to come in, and I am going to ask about an update about the computer breach or alleged breach, just to get some sort of update. I know that the organizers probably don't like that. Okay. Let's start off with airtime. So Friday, I got a briefing from them. It looked pretty good. Yesterday's demo had some issues, but at the very core, what was interesting to me was this concept that Sean Parker kept talking about, this idea that the internet is boring and that it's harder to find people and people of value who enrich your lives. And in a sense, I think Greg mentioned, airtime reminded him of speed friending, which is, I think, really the best description that I've heard. Let's start with you, Geoff, because you worked on something kind of similar to this a couple of years ago, and maybe what do you think of this?
Yeah, sure. So, I definitely appreciate the UI. I think the product looks good, but I feel like I drank that Kool-Aid in terms of the chat roulette model when we built something called Live, which was essentially real-time video chat with a next button and games. So when you land on someone, you have something to do, and we found that it's kind of just a curiosity and unnatural over time. What happened? I liken it to if you're at a party, you don't immediately turn to someone you don't know and start up a conversation with them, right? You might lurk, you might try to enter with a friend into a conversation, but you don't immediately just start going. It's unnatural. And so
my boss,
I'm kind of skeptic.
I was going to tell you, my boss actually tried airtime, and she said that she got on, and she saw this complete stranger pop up on the screen, and she literally screamed and turned it off, and then it kept moving. She was going through people like butter, and she said it was such hit and miss. Anyway, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have mentioned that, but she was freaked out.
So I think that airtime's pretty interesting. It is definitely a really well-executed product based on this idea that was pioneered by Chat Roulette and then tried by others before. I think it solves a number of big problems. So there's definitely better matching than Chat Roulette because it's not roulette. You can match based on location, likes and common friends, and it also has much better security and also some gamification to make you try to have higher quality conversations. That said, I agree with Geoff that it still feels pretty forced, and I just thought of this term speed, in the way that speed dating feels pretty forced, speed friending feels pretty forced as well. So I do think that it's a well-executed product that some portion of the market will want to use it. My gut doesn't feel like it's a truly mass market product, but I do think it definitely contributes to all of our mission of social discovery, and I think we'll find out how well it does in the future.
Oh, hey, Alan.
Hey.
Okay, I just really quick. Is there an update on what allegedly or may have happened with the breach? I'm a reporter. I have to ask that question, or else my peers are not going to.
So I don't have any new information. You can follow, if you're interested in finding more out about it, you can follow the LinkedIn handle on Twitter, because we're doing updates every time we get more info. Check it out.
Krista was doing some updates on Twitter, so that's why I mentioned that.
It's the best way to do it.
So you guys have been proactive. That's why I wanted to give you the opportunity to.
Yeah, absolutely. So everything we find out, we're going to let you know.
Okay.
Twitter's a great place to look for it.
Okay. Well, now I'll ask you a panel-related question.
Excellent.
In fairness. Maybe I'll start with you. The whole value of people discovery. We're trying to find people that enrich our lives, and I understand you're from LinkedIn's point of view, but maybe you guys feel free to jump in after Alan, because in a sense, some of us might feel there are too many social networks and there's too much noise going on and whatnot.
So one of the interesting things that I was reminded of as you guys were talking about airtime is that right now we're in a time when we're experimenting with lots and lots of different ways for people to meet other people. I mean, the internet has only been social for like 10 years. So in that time, we've learned a lot, and we've also failed a lot in terms of the ways in which people meet each other, the way you match up with people, the way you find new folks. LinkedIn, we're obviously concerned with professionals meeting other professionals. And the way we do it at LinkedIn is we do it through trusted relationships. So that's the main focus for us. There are products like our groups product, which is a good opportunity for you to encounter new professionals who share a passion with you. But for us, we believe that professionals come together either through people, primarily through people, and then for basically shared purpose or shared passion.
You know, I was going to mention this really quickly. So I've noticed in the last couple of weeks, I get more LinkedIn requests than Facebook friend requests. I mean, I've noticed it's like a 10-to-1 ratio. It used to be flipped about even several months ago. What do you attribute that to?
So, I mean, there's a lot of possibilities. I don't know in your case exactly. LinkedIn has been growing and growing faster and faster over time. We continue to accelerate our growth over time. We're still, bringing in 2 new members a second, and we have put a tremendous amount of time and effort into making our people you may know algorithms and the experience around that as powerful as possible. I mean, it's been a huge point of investment for us. So as we improve those things, and as people get more connected and discover the value of being connected, they reach out more often.
So you're like at 160 million or so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some above that.
And so you're outside of Facebook. Rick is inside of Facebook. And you're about 30 million. What's the difference between kind of the people you find versus Alan's people? And do your users also, are they also members of LinkedIn? I don't know. Are they 2 separate types of people?
No, I think there's definitely overlap. Our users, I think, skew a bit younger. I think LinkedIn's core users probably kind of 35 and up, and more of a senior level person. A lot of our people are on Facebook, and they're more entry to mid-level. And I think one of the differences is that LinkedIn is your professional graph, and they've done a great job at that. But what we believe is that Facebook's really important because that's your real support network, your social graph, the people that will help you in recruiting, getting a job, getting your resume at the top of the pile. And typically in network effect businesses, there's only going to be a couple winners, right? So in social, it's definitely Facebook. In professional, it's LinkedIn and BranchOut. But you're typically not going to be on multiple in any vertical. And the professional vertical would be the 2 of us. So those network effect businesses, they're really hard to build, though, right? To be that number 1 or 2. After that, it just kind of really drops off.
One of the things I also wanted to ask you about was just kind of the can you put a number on the people discovery network market or whatever? I don't even know how to define that. But can you tell me, how big that market is and where each of you may fall within that market and what value you bring that the others don't? What distinguishes each of you?
Well, so I'd say that the size of the people discovery market is the percentage of people who are online. And so today that's 2 billion people who are online, 5 billion if you include mobile, that would want to meet and connect with new people online. And I think, I don't know if that number is 100% or is 50% or what, but I do think that we're all social animals that all have this core human need to meet and connect with new people, and thus I think that in the end, the entire social discovery industry in general will probably serve north of 1 billion active users.
Just because we mentioned airtime, would you guys use video? I mean, would you consider elements of video in what you do?
Yeah, so we use video. We allow one-on-one video chat. We allow video chat with games, and it is a popular feature on the network. But it's basically a feature. It's not kind of the reason for being. And I think part of that is just the difficulty of kind of doing synchronous well. What we kind of strive to be is that service that engineers serendipity for users, right? That basically will drop a user on someone that you're interested in. It's a much higher bar to have to do that synchronous in real time, as opposed to asynchronously. It's also much easier to consume, and it's much more standard to consume social media asynchronously. People are familiar with their Facebook news feeds, and so I think it's more of a feature than kind of a brand.
So I want to ask Alan about that because, in a sense, there have been instances where people have done job interviews one-on-one via video, I don't know, versus for Skype or FaceTime or what have you. Is that something that you might see within LinkedIn? Or?
Oh, we can absolutely see it as something that we might get into in the future. I mean, LinkedIn has been and continues to be something which integrates into the tools that professionals use on a regular basis. So we have a lot of email integration, as everybody knows, and we have a lot of sort of integration into the kinds of products. We have an app platform and so forth that people are actually using. Video is something which is coming up in the professional space, and as it becomes more prominent in terms of the way professionals interact with each other, we're going to integrate more with video.
One thing, so next week there's going to be a People Discovery social network announced on Tuesday. And what I'm thinking about, how specialized can People Discovery become through social networks? I mean, there reaches probably a point where people just, you can't, I mean, I used to be a member of Path, and I stopped doing it. It was just too much of a time investment. As much as I like it, I've scaled back my use of Facebook. LinkedIn I use more now, ironically, than I had before for work-related purposes. It's really good.
Me too.
Sure. I have nothing to gain from saying that. Twitter, same thing. Use it more. So how specialized can they become? And also, is it just a reach? I'm starting to see stories, too, surfacing about people spending less time online or kind of trying to manage the way they do it. And there's services coming out that do the same. They're offering this type of...
I think an important point to mention is that most people in the world. So you are time poor because you have a job, family, etc. Most people in the world are actually time rich. If you think about all the time that's spent watching reality TV or etc., most people actually have a lot of time on their hands. So you probably use Path and Facebook less because you don't have as much social time, but you're using LinkedIn and Twitter more to help you get your job done. But most people are actually the exact opposite. And they actually have, and so, probably all of us in this room are time poor, and we have to remember that most consumers are actually time rich. And so we need to be designing products for them, not necessarily for other time poor people.
So the lovely Julie Crable just handed me some questions from Twitter. Let me just take a quick look, because I want to ask some, why are only 1% heavy contributors? Mindset, bandwidth, interest, privacy. I'm not sure what that means. Maybe I'll get a translation. No, sorry about that. Social discovery is all about what you put in, or share or not to share. What do you think about people should be comfortable with sharing?
I think it depends on the context. So I think Facebook is a wonderful platform to be able to share social. And there are certain things that you should not share on Facebook. Drunk party pictures probably are not the best thing, because once that's out there,
Oops.
Right click, save to desktop, and that's out there forever. So I think you need an outlet, whether it's BranchOut or LinkedIn or somewhere, to be able to have your professional side. So I think it's important to get out there and use these services like Facebook or Twitter or BranchOut or LinkedIn to build your professional brand. And Facebook, I think, is great for tapping into people to outward. But I think if you really want to build more of a niche, you've got to use maybe Path or some of the verticals that are more niche.
And I also think that I get asked all the time, why does the world need another social network for discovery? Can't you just use Facebook? And if you look at, yes, we have profiles and photos and messages just like Facebook does. But if you look at what people share on the profiles and photos, it's totally different. I mean, the things that you would share to people that you've known for the last 10 years of your life versus the things you would share to people that you're just meeting for the first time and kind of slowly peeling back the layers as you meet them, it's just totally different. And so even though a lot of the features are the same across all of our products, a lot of the actual usage of the features is actually quite different.
Yeah, I'd add to that. It's very strange to get a friend request from someone you don't know on Facebook, right? If you do get that, you think kind of that person's kind of overstepped the boundary of that network. Whereas on social networks like MeetMe or Tagged, that's the friend request you get. So the context is very important to kind of, which is essentially the same as saying the social graph of the social network is essentially its defining characteristic. And so what we see is basically as more and more people kind of use Facebook for friendship management, and I think mass market, essentially everyone does. We think that as friendship management is already there, friendship making will progress there over time. Our aha moment is when you're on the subway platform or you're in the bar and you can discover kind of the people in the room using a particular service. That's when we think it gets interesting.
The amazing thing of just listening to these responses, because they're all right on target. The thing which is amazing to me, we're all coming at this from different directions, and we're kind of living in a time right now when, let me put it this way, human communication has always been mediated by technology in one way or another, unless we're talking about face-to-face stuff like we're doing right now. Human communication is actually at a place where technology is changing the rules of communication. I mean, we don't know what it's going to turn into down the line, but I know that business people are struggling to emerge from a very conservative form of communication into something where they share more frequently, where they talk more frequently, where they become more confident in their ability to make a difference in the world around them. And they're moving that direction because they feel surrounded by the people who they're connected to. Sharing is actually changing the professional communication, the professional conversation. And I know that the way people understand each other is going to be different in 10 years. It's already different, but it's going to be even more different in 10 years. It's going to be really cool to see where we end up.
I like this question. Aren't Tagged and MeetMe mostly about dating?
Can I take that one?
I don't know. I'm just asking.
Yeah. So I think the difference, and it's actually kind of summarized kind of, if you think of the Mary Meeker presentation, right? She came up with a bunch of reimaginations of things. And the way we would describe it is, we're essentially the reimagination of the bar or the coffee house, right? There's plenty of different reasons to walk into a bar. It might be to pick up a girl. It might be to play a game of darts or pool. It might be to just socialize with friends. But whether you're in a relationship or not, you can validly walk into a bar and without kind of having any kind of social stigma. And so that's essentially the environment that MeetMe is. It's a very casual type of environment. 70% of our users say they're looking for friendship, not a date. There is a strong flirting and dating component to it, but it's about 40% or less use case. And we think it's kind of the more natural way to connect to somebody. And so that's what we have in mind when we develop product. It's really the bar, the coffee house. How do we make this feel like a social space?
So I'd say there is tons of dating and flirting that happens on Tag. It's probably between 50 and 60% of the connections that are formed, and the other half is around social games as well as shared interests. And I think that's great. I think there are a few key use cases around meeting people for different social reasons, and dating and flirting is one of the big ones. And like Geoff said, I also think that social discovery sites are much more natural places to end up dating and flirting rather than more forced contexts like dating sites. Both Tag and MeetMe aren't explicitly dating sites, and so you can be on there for all types of reasons. And if you happen to want to date or flirt, that's fine. You're not the guy who's using a dating site. You're merely just having fun meeting people on either Tag or MeetMe.
And what's interesting is you actually don't churn out once you do meet someone, because there is not that. If you use a dating site and you meet someone, you have to leave that dating site, or you essentially violate the social contract. And so we kind of liken that to kind of a speed dating event in real life. Whereas on MeetMe and Tagged and so forth, you don't feel this need to leave, and so you don't have the churn problem that traditional dating sites have.
Greg mentioned gamification. What role does it play in people discovery, or should it?
What role should, so I think gamification definitely can play a role. I mean, I'm always hesitant about taking it to the extreme because I don't want to make everything into a game, and I think if you take it to an extreme, it actually might sort of cheapen your brand and cheapen the experience. But I definitely think that we are all hardwired to respond to incentives, and there are definitely ways to use gamification in order to achieve the end goal of social discovery.
Maybe if you pull your crystal balls out and tell me where you think this whole market is going. I mean, what do you think people want? Because I'll make an admission. When I go on Facebook, sometimes I get depressed because I'm doing laundry at home, and somebody's on a beach in Maui, or somebody's showing me this filet mignon they have at the best restaurant in the city that I just left, or they're all drunk at a party, and I have this kind of crestfallen moment. It's always like, why should I go on? Give me a reason to come back. I don't want to go back and feel like Woody Allen, right, on a Friday night. So.
But Twitter is that 1% content creators and the 99% consumption. And I think that people want to be able to see a day in the life of that celebrity, right? Maybe most people's lives are never going to be that interesting, but it's really interesting to see what people that you respect are doing out there. But I think looking forward, if it's about meeting new people, it's got to be about topic-based granular search, right? So like airtime. So if I just put in social media or something really like we talked like TechCrunch, okay, great. So we both like TechCrunch. That's not that interesting. But if I really want to get granular and meet someone else with with a common interest at that more granular level, that gets interesting to me. That's how I want to meet people outside of who I meet face to face.
I'm not as convinced that interest-based matching is the holy grail that will basically lead to the mass market adoption of Meet New People. And I think part of it is if you're in a bar or you're in that coffee house, does it really matter all that much compared to actually just having a social communication with somebody and seeing if there's any kind of connection? Whether you like my sports team or my hobbies, which I can't think of one, I don't know that it matters necessarily all that much.
So you mentioned the 1%. It does seem as if, like when you were in class in high school or in college, there was that one person who always raised their hand, who always were the center of attention or always making their point. It seems like that Facebook and Twitter are overrun with people like that. And I'm guilty of like talking too much. So I've had people say you should tone it down or you shouldn't be as coy as you are. I was like, okay. But you know what? It's like you want others to be. One of my frustrating things is I want to egg people into talking or some sort of joint discussion, and they're usually the same people. And I mean, a lot of them are in this room where at least we communicate with one another. But others I hear from weeks ago, like, oh, remember when that happened? It was like, well, why didn't you say anything back then? I mean, it's so long ago. Somebody
has to lead the conversation, right? There has to be someone contributing interesting content to have an interesting discussion to bring more people in.
But it seems like a conversation in an echo chamber where the echo finally comes back to you days later. This doesn't feel like it's the immediate one-on-one, right? I mean, that's maybe.
Well, so I feel like there are at least two big things that have to be solved in order for social discovery to really reach its potential. And one is, like Geoff mentioned, much better matching. And I also agree that it's probably not just interest-based matching. If you look at scientific studies of what's called human attraction, like really the so-called science of friendship, there are a lot of other factors other than just you share the same interests. I have some of my best friends I share zero interests with. But we have the same political views, we have the same religious views, we're the same level of physical attractiveness. Believe it or not, that actually is a factor. Even in platonic relationships, level of physical attractiveness is a factor that predicts the likelihood of making a connection.
It's so deep of you. No, I'm sorry.
Yes. No, I'm just rehashing.
I was kidding.
I'm just rehashing what the research says. Being really good at and I don't think any company has completely cracked the nut of say doing people search as well as Google does web search. And so that's one factor. Another big factor is actually making the whole notion of meeting and connecting a lot less active and a lot more passive.
I'm sorry.
And so in terms of sort of looking forward, but also talking about like the center of the conversation, one of the things that I think comes from the traditional days of online community is that you had a bunch of very noisy people and a bunch of people who responded. They would form a little online community. There'd be heavy talkers because it was sort of in a broadcast kind of environment. And I think one of the things that social discovery allows you to change is that now, instead of one person speaking and everybody else listening, you can get to where two people can be put together to speak. And that's a new kind of interaction. So let me give you an example and where I hope LinkedIn will be in 5 years, 10 years. Let me give you a good example. As a business person, I assume that most of you here are here as part of work or thinking about your startups, or thinking about the project you're working on. You got a problem. Business people make decisions all day long. I want to make better decisions. How am I going to do it? I want to be able to reach out and talk to somebody, whether I know them or not, who can help me make that decision, who can help provide me the information or the inspiration that I need to make a really good choice. That's the kind of matching that LinkedIn wants to do in the future. We want anytime you face an issue or a problem or a question or something you're researching, that LinkedIn can help pair you with 3 or 4 people who will be able to help you attack that problem immediately through conversation. Does that mean you have a long-term relationship? Does that mean you have something which lasts for a long time? Maybe. Maybe that does come up. But in truth, business is about meeting people and doing specific things with them, and hopefully forming those long-term relationships so you can go out and be co-founders. You can go out and do work together in the future. That's the place where I hope the social discovery goes, at least in the professional space.
It's a great way to end it. I mean, I think we've run out of time, but the idea of discovery for me on Twitter in particular, finding somebody you don't know who can help you is, or has a similar interest is, I love that idea, that concept. Anyway, I think that's it, but thank you very much for all your time. Thanks, Julie, for doing all this.